Well, I mean, just to put it in context, I am a gay man, so there's some vanity
Listen,
Okay.
my boyfriend's a straight man, and I just hit record, but it's okay if people hear this because this is very human of us. I have said before, because Chanti, they use StreamYard, and I have been playing with StreamYard, but StreamYard always makes you look like older. Like the filter.
That's true.
It is true. And so he had done a video or off camera. I think anyway, he was like, he got off the show and he was like, why did I look so old? He was like very depressed. And I was like, oh, no, honey, that's just StreamYard. It's just StreamYard. so anyway, that's the beautiful Zoom, is it doesn't quite show all the wrinkles and whatnot, the passing of time over our faces. So guys, so I just press record mid recording. We always have lots of fun off camera. Every show I do before we even hit record, we're always laughing about something. But I am so excited because I have got two people on the screen right now that I have wanted to join forces together for a long time. And that is my friend Hillis and my friend Chanti. So welcome. Finally, we've got you guys on a show together. How are you both doing this morning? Or this afternoon for Chanti over in South Africa?
It's Friday. What can I say?
Beautiful day, actually in the middle of moving, so off to new beginnings. So the next week is going to be kind of crazy. It's freezing. We have a hot and a cold day. I think Harp and Darper is alive and well in South Africa right now, that's for sure. We have one moment is hot and the other one is freezing, but all good. Yeah, wonderful. And thank you for inviting me. And I'm really looking forward to spending some time connecting with you as well, Hillis. You're super interesting. So I look forward to that.
Me too. I mean, all the things that Vice has mentioned during our recent interviews and the information that you carry, I just can't wait to really dive in to really see your perspective of all of it.
Yeah.
I look forward to it.
And I'll say for you guys, if you missed the first week, Hillis and I have done 2 episodes. So how this all started is I met Hillis through ASEA. And when I first met Hillis, I thought he was just a corporate guy for ASEA. And then I found out that he was a proud weirdo, just like me. And I was like, oh, goody, goody, goody. This is going to be fun. And I will say, you guys know the etymology of the word weird. It means one who is liberated. So that is a huge badge of honor. If you're a weirdo, you're one who is liberated. And so Hillis and I started doing more shows together, and Hillis mentioned something to me because I had done a show and we talked about the different star systems, the different constellations, and this theory that on planet Earth, the reason why we have so many different races is because we are genetically holding all these different species, these different humanoid species from different galactic origins that came to Earth and intermingled. And that's why they say, a lot of people who specialize in this kind of theory say that is why Earth is so fought over, and that is why Earth is so important. Because we are potentially be, if we get out of our own way, one of the most powerful planets in the cosmos, because within every individual within your DNA, you carry all these special abilities that come from all these different constellations. And I know on my channel, we've talked a lot about the Lyrans, we've talked a lot about the Pleiadians with different works we've looked at. And I had somebody ask more about, in a comment section, about the Sirians, from Sirius, so not from the country, but from the star system, the star Sirius. Not the radio, but the actual star system. Although I have some speculations as to why they named that radio program Sirius. And Hillis mentioned something about the Dogon people. And I had never heard of the Dogon people, but I sat here doing all this research only to find out that my boyfriend knew a ton about the Dogon people because he had researched them for years, because they're really, really fascinating. And I want to reiterate this again. So the Dogon people are from Africa. But as we're starting to put the pieces together, every single person on this planet is indigenous to somewhere, right? You're indigenous to somewhere on this planet. And all these different tribal communities, whether it's the Dogon people or the Druids or the Egyptian alchemists or the Indians, they all are the Native Americans. They all were kind of telling the same stories with different words, different vocabulary. And then that got obliterated. But the Dogon people were able to hide themselves away and protect this information. And so what's so incredible is that they are literally the people that have protected humanity's history, not just for them, but for all of us, of where we really come from. And so again, guys, I will put part 1 and part 2 down in the description box below if you missed it. Also, Chanti, before we get into it, because then I'm going to pass the ball over to you, Chanti. I just heard from Mornay. So we are usually Mondays, we do the Emerald Tablets, but I know since you're moving, we're rescheduling that for next Friday, correct? Just to let you
yeah, it could be Friday, probably not Friday. I'll have you.
Okay.
Yeah, the following week. But yeah, we'll chat about when.
So so I just want to go ahead and say that for you guys, if you're watching and you do follow on Mondays, as Chanti said, she's got stuff going on, so that the schedule next week might be a little bit off. But with that being said, actually, here's my ADD kicking in. One more thing before we get into this, the subject matter. I just want to take a moment to go ahead and show you guys their channels. Obviously, Hillis, please subscribe to Hillis if you haven't. All the channel links will be in the description box below. And I think YouTube, or excuse me, Zoom makes me actually change out the page before I change it on the screen. Here is Solutions with Aquarius Rising Africa. So this is the second channel for the secondary channel for Aquarius Rising Africa, where Chanti offers a lot of the solutions, a lot of, we talk a lot about the scandals going on in the world, but this is a channel that's really focused on finding solutions. Obviously, we are going through the Sophia Code on this channel, and then obviously we've talked a lot about the chakra system and other types of healing modalities. And then let me get over to the main channel of Aquarius Rising Africa, which is where it all began. Actually, it's your second main channel, because your first one got, obviously you're getting a little too close to the truth on the first channel. So yeah. This is where all the more scandalous stuff is talked about and revealed. Of course, Chanti does an incredible job with whistleblowers of all different walks of life. So if you are not subscribed to these channels, the links will be down in the description box below. Or if you were originally subscribed to Aquarius Rising Africa and you thought they just went away, no, they didn't. They're back.
They're still here.
Still here.
Still here.
So with that being said, Chanti, I'm going to go ahead and hand the ball over to you to tell us what you know about the Dogon people.
Well, thank you so much, Bryce. And yes, I mean, the Dogons, they, in my reality anyway, the Dogons, you've always heard about them. They're one of the very amazing African tribes, and there's a lot of amazing African tribes, but the Dogons are one of the truly amazing ones, but absolutely have been hidden in the shadows. But what really got me interested in them a number of years ago was the fact their connection to the dolphins and the amphibian, I want to say technology. So, I know that they link very much to, I think it's Nomu. No, do you pronounce it Nomu? Nomu? Yeah. Nomu in terms of, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I know what you're saying. They called the Syrian deities that came down, they called them Nubi.
Yes.
And know, guys, for those
Nomos. Nomos. Yes, I think the Nomos. Yeah.
And why are you saying with the dolphins, Chanti? I know you've had Mr. Fox on, and we talk about third density, second density, and there are some animals. Most animals are second density, but there are some animals who are also third density, and the dolphins are one of them. They are third density, just like we are. So that's interesting, isn't it? Very interesting.
Yeah, so they have this great connection to the nomos. I mean, the way you see it being spelled differently, but the most common way is Nommos, which are, the dolphin deity, so to speak, which come to Earth, and they can also appear on land. They're these celestial type beings, and a lot of in their culture, when they do their dances and stuff like that, they have the wooden masks that are replicating the dolphin beings. I'll just call them that. But they can also appear on land. They're amphibious as well as land creatures. So according to what I've understood, they are not from Sirius A, which is the brightest star, but rather Sirius B, which is the invisible dwarf star. And I love that because it's invisible. And that's where they've been getting their information from, because they've been around since the 3rd century BC, right? And they were only discovered in somewhere in the 1930s by some French anthropologists, from what I understand, right? So they've been around since forever. And they've been continuing their traditions, generation to generation to generation. They just continue these incredible traditions. And they have huge knowledge on agriculture, astronomy, celestial beings, just the universe in itself. It's so beautiful when you can just sit down and connect. And I mean, I would love to say I want to sit down with him. I've never sat down with the Dogons. I've sat down with the Khoi and the Bushmen and some of the ancient African tribes, and that in itself is really beautiful. But just to sit down and connect with beings who are so fully connected, must be something really, really magical. So that, basically in a nutshell, that for me is what I understand about the Dogons. And I know they have a lot of they know about technology that, as far as I know, NASA only discovered somewhere in 1920, right? And they've known about this for thousands of years. And it's all around agriculture. It's all around the universe and how things work, right? So they truly have fantastic awareness and fantastic knowledge on life, this planet. And I love what you said, Bryce, because, I truly believe that's what Earth is. We're a conglomeration of a whole lot of species, humans, whatever. I don't think any of us really know. I mean, and we've come together and really just bringing it together and seeing how we can work together, how this works together in our DNA, and how the tribes and people work together, on a more external level. But when we discover these ancient tribes and their knowledge, I think that really does bring a lot of light to our awareness and our consciousness. Yeah.
Do you remember, Hillis, last week we spoke about too we're looking at the Abrahamic religions of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. And according to like the Cassiopeans, who we read their board all the time, the Abrahamic religions are the ones that really destroyed the truth of humanity. And I'm not saying anything about Yeshua or Muhammad. We're talking about the church or the corporation.
The institutions, yeah.
Yeah, the institutions. And what I don't know if you even know, Chanti, so what the Dogon people, when Islam was being brought into Africa from Morocco, because where they are, guys, it's like right below Morocco is where they live now. And they came from this like dynastic family of Africa way back when that was a very powerful, very influential. We think of dynasties like the Tudor dynasty, the Stuart dynasty, the Windsors. Now we think about the House of Valois in Paris, and and the Bourbons, that the Louis XIV. Well, it's the same thing here in Africa. I'm in Atlanta, but over in Africa it was the same thing. They had these dynasties of these very powerful families, and when Islam was brought into the northern part of Africa, half of that family institutionalized with the Islamic faith. And that's why if you go to Morocco, there's so much Islam. But a small part of this family said no. And of course, you guys know, if you know that the history of like the Celtic people or the Druid people, you can't say no to these institutions. With the Druids and the Celtics, when the Christianity was brought up into Europe, the people that said no were tortured to death. And so the spreading of Christianity didn't spread because of some good news. It spread because people's lives were being tortured. And the same thing was happening in Africa with the Islamic institution. So the Dogon people, this group that left, that said, no, we're not going to do this, they left and they hid. And they hid in this area, and it's brilliant. They put themselves into this like terrain where they have these cliffs that surround them. And so back in that time, it was really impossible to get to them. And so they were able to continue with their heritage, which is really the heritage of all of us, and teaching their children the truths about how we got here. And we talked about that, Hillis, last week about the Sirius B, how the Dogon people knew where Sirius B was before NASA, before anybody was able to actually locate it with technology. And they even knew of the planet. So according to the Dogon people, the teachers that came from Sirius B, that were the amphibian and also mermaid, that dolphin mermaidic presence, when they left, they went to a new planet, which is called Sirius C. And Sirius C still hasn't been discovered by NASA yet. It's still a mystery, but if I were a betting woman, I would bet it exists. They've been right so far. So do you want to talk about that more, Hillis?
Yeah, and it's interesting as you speak of this, and those that know me know that I practice theory and Lemurian light energy. That's what I do, as well as being a psychic medium. And as I sit here and I am being reminded of when you talked about Tartaria, those thousands of years. And so I'm receiving this information literally in this moment of this timeline of energy. And forgive me, bright lights make my eyes water. So it's like I'm just crying, like, ah. But for people who want to understand, first there was Lemuria. We all know Lemuria. Then there was Atlantis. We all know about Atlantis. And then, in order to save the civilization, the people from Atlantis went to Kemet, which is also known as Egypt. And actually, let me rephrase that. Before it was Kemet, it was Samaria. So from Atlantis to Sumerian times, and then it went from Sumerian times to Egyptian times. And this is when Egypt was flourishing. This is when we all had this energy, this abundance, the well of life, if you will. And during this time, there was a lot of visitation, but this also created the space of jealousy among the pharaohs, because they weren't the ones who were being visited most. It was the humble tribes of the Dogon. As I sit here, I'm literally receiving this information. And it is in that space of humbleness that they allow themselves to receive these, because the pharaohs of the time were not receptive to the truth, because they were in the space of, you have to show me, you have to prove it to me, that because, as pharaohs, they couldn't lead their people without proof or fear. And so if they couldn't prove anything, how could they expect the people to follow? Which is why the humbleness of the Dogon tribe was more receptive, more in a space, in the heart space with them. And so with them being in that heart space, they were able to teach them, show them the ways of the Syrian galaxy, of the home planet. And this created the sense of exchange, the exchange of wisdom, the exchange of knowledge of how to work on Earth, and how to implement that wisdom and technology here, and how they could be the keeper of said knowledge and wisdom. And when the time was right, which is now, that this knowledge would come to fruition, that this truth of the Syrian existence, the truth of why Lemuria existed and how far, the truth of Atlantis and all these different civilizations and how they existed and fell. And it was all because of pridefulness. It was all because of things were not balanced in the cultures and energies. So this is why we have these ebb and flows of civilizations, which is now why we're at the part of what we talked about as well, is the space of understanding the human, HUEMAN, so the new human, and really understanding the full spectrum that we not only uh, bear witness to, but also inhabit, that we hold in ourselves, and that energy is being asked to be cultivated. And I know that's probably a different direction, but that was like information that was coming in that had to be expressed.
That makes a lot of
Wow.
sense. I mean, we know that, like, and you're talking about that. I'm like, wow, that sounds indicative of our leaders today. The ego, the arrogance, the aggressiveness, and and I
But
know.
not so much aggressiveness. It was more so that they, like any good leader, there's always have to be proof of evidence and belief. And if no one can believe as proof of evidence, then it leads to the space of fearfulness. And so that was part of the reason why Egyptian fell the way that it did, and how it, turned the way that it did, is because no one could believe this, because the pharaohs were holding on to this information. But what am I going to do with it? What am I supposed to do with this? And so this is why you have the scholars, the artists creating these murals, these hieroglyphs, sharing this information and wisdom. And this is why you have so many temples and obelisks and other signs defaced, because well, how true is it? So, and you go back to uh, Inky and all the other creators of that time who were playing God, so to speak, and incorporating, uh, the galactic DNA in these 23 strands, and what we have access to. Not just the gene recognition, it's also the recognition of what feels right for you, and throughout the centuries that has been conditioned out of humanity. And
Which
so,
that's what
when,
science calls the junk DNA today. It's this they say, but
Yeah.
I don't think any of us believe that that's actually what that is. And while you're talking, Hillis, I'm going to go ahead and share screen, because
yeah,
you brought up the Sumerians, which is really important, because a lot of when I was looking at the Dogon people, a lot of the scientists, the scholars who were starting to study the Dogon people, were recognizing that a lot of what they were talking about um, is seen in a lot of Sumerian artwork as
they're the
well.
same tribe from different times. That's all. It's the same tribe from different times. Just like,
Wow.
you have, um, I, you know, there really is no way to really express this. When you have the translation of time, black is black, white is white, orange is orange. When you go through these time periods, when you go through these transformative spaces, when you reinvent yourself, the reason why people reinvent themselves is one or two reasons: to hide or to evolve. And in this instance, it was a space of both. It was to keep the information that they had of the time of the creation of civilization. And it was in that space of the humanity's evolution that we took this and we held on to the secret and we shared what we could. And in that space, the humbleness of the transformation into the Dogon people, up right there, So go back down. So I want you to see the mask in the center. Yes.
One.
So so this is a depiction of what.
Sorry,
Uh-oh.
hold on. All right, keep talking. Let me pull that back up again. Hold on.
So that was a depiction of both Samaria and now most of the Dogons, and I've seen this tribal history to a degree, then and then also now. And I feel that you, Shanti, that you are receiving information or allowing something to come in. So I will pass this over to you to express what needs to be expressed at this moment.
Yeah. What you said something to me, which was, when you were talking, said something which was quite profound. Two reasons to reinvent themselves, or, it's either to hide or to reinvent themselves, right? So it's like, why would you want to hide, right? Okay, what are you hiding? So that for me, again, would be a choice, a time of discernment, right? So you're either going to go one way or the other with that, and to reinvent yourself, right? So are you saying that part of what they've done was chosen that process of humbly reinventing? So it's a constant process of reinventing. I just want to make sure I understood you correctly there.
Yeah, so it is a space of reinvention, but in that particular time of civilization, it was also to keep themselves safe as they
Okay.
as they understood that the world was breaking down. They understood that they would have to preserve what needed to be preserved. So when you have, and like with anyone, when you have great information, what do you do to preserve it? You know, do you hide to preserve? As you hide, you reinvent and evolve yourself, or do you be very boastful? It's like, I have a secret, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. No.
Shanti, I don't
Yeah.
know if you've run across this in your Ayurvedic studies, but we often what came to mind is what they call in the East is cocooning. When you need
Yes.
to be kept safe,
Yes.
and that's it is. When he said that, that hit me too, Shanti, because it's like, okay, they were high, and you're right, Hillis, like the information they had, they can't taunt. You can't taunt people with it because
Yes.
it's dangerous, right? And you need to preserve it. And so it's like they went into that cocoon of like
Yes.
themselves, but also um
That.
nurturing that
Yeah.
time. So I that's something that's very much spoken about in the East as well. So that makes sense. Spirituality. You know what's interesting, Hillis, as you said, at a time such as this, like now we're able to talk about this. Chanti and Hillis has also read the Emerald Tablets too. Chanti, Thoth said the same thing, that the Emerald Tablets would not reemerge again until it was time. And so, isn't that
Yeah.
interesting that this surge
Yeah.
in understanding the Dogon people, as well as the Dogon people, were discovered by the French archaeologists around the same time as the missing books of the Bible were starting to resurface? We've got the Emerald Tablets resurfacing. So, I don't think that's a coincidence at all.
We
Yeah.
are returning to the starting point, if you will. We are returning to the starting point of time, of energy. Now, we just ended this 26,000 year cycle. So when we are returning to that space, and things begin to lift, and there are two things happening simultaneously. Not only are we returning to the point of origin, but we are returning to the point of origin in a different spatial atmosphere. When I say spatial atmosphere, I'm literally talking about space, because we have this preconceived notion, through teachings, if school teaching, that we revolve around the sun, and that's it. We don't go anywhere. The whole entire galaxy, the whole entire solar system moves. And this is one thing I want people to truly understand, that when we move, we are moving into a whole different part of the solar system where the energy is more in harmonic resonance. with this cycle that we're in. So in the terms of galaxy space, we are at the beginning point. So the end is now the beginning. And overall in the universe, we are in a whole different space. So it's the conjunction of this harmonic energy that is radiating, that is allowing for this information to be more palpable, to
Comes through.
it to be
Yeah.
more to be nurtured. And so that's what's happening now.
Yeah.
The information is choosing people to disseminate where it can
Yeah.
be heard and felt and truly understood.
I think that's what I was saying, early on with the hiding and the reinventing as well, was like, as you're saying, with this information coming through, it's kind of not only reinventing, I want to say yourself, because as humans, as a vessel, we have to be able to also reinvent ourselves sufficiently to be able to hold that frequency, right? So the frequency is coming in of a higher nature, maybe stronger, more intricate, whatever it looks like or feels like. But the vessel of the person has to suit the frequency so that it can be translated in the way that it's intended, right? So for us to reach a higher level of consciousness within ourselves, first to be able to understand and assimilate that information. And I want to say, almost like if we look at Jesus, right? If you're just looking at religion and Christianity with Jesus, I do believe Jesus had to be of a certain consciousness to be able to channel Christ's energy or the Christos, whatever. He had to have had that consciousness to be able to integrate it, speak it, bring it into existence for humanity, right? That's the way I'm seeing this. Alternatively, the hiding, I agree, is either going to get people to run and hide in a freaking 360-degree radius, right? Or to still hide the information because or the culture maybe, right? Because what you were saying, Bryce, with Sirius C, that still hasn't been discovered, but obviously we know it's there type thing. So maybe to still hide the culture until people are ready. Or maybe, that's what I'm saying. So for me, it would be either one of those two, right? And yes, I agree. People need to cocoon themselves, absolutely, before they can just outwardly express and radiate without feeling that need to cocoon as individuals. But what I'm saying is, to me, that's an inner story that reflects outwardly, right? So we have to be able to get into resonance with this new information. And I think that goes exactly in line with what you're saying, is that the information chooses you. The information chooses you as its mouthpiece. I love that. I absolutely love that, because it's so true and so profound. So all of us are going to be getting our bits of information with our mouthpieces going off second to none. And it's all unique to us, but it's all going to harmonize beautifully in a symphony at some point, right? That's the way I see that. So what do you say about that?
Me or Bryce?
Well,
Both of you.
say something. It brought me back to this place of where we are in our timeline right now, the three of us and those our friends watching right now. And you can't underestimate the power of the past, in the sense that I just finished the Muna Key rites with my friend Cindy, who is of Peruvian descent. And when you're going through these rites from the Peruvian, from the Andes, you go through this like ceremonial stuff with your ancestors. And it ended up making me so emotional, because I realized in that moment, I'm from the Southeast. The Southeast is a very witchy place, right? Like women are going to church on Sundays, but then they're doing stuff in the afternoon, with their, anyway. But I realized throughout the course of history, especially as someone of European descent, and I know Chanti is of European descent, and Hillis, you got European in you as well, so this will resonate with you too, especially looking at the Druids and the Celtics and how harshly they were tortured for having these quote unquote pagan beliefs, which pagan was a word created by the Catholic Church, right, to describe anything outside of this mainstream institution. And that fear that then was installed genetically into people that they passed down, the fear of exposing themselves, the fear of clinging to the ancient traditions that the church labeled as witchcraft or as evil, and they knew that they couldn't expose that, but yet it still continued to kind of be passed down in secret anyway. It was like a hidden secret. And now, you know, I know a lot of people, and Cindy, my friend, has spoken about this as well, that even when she starts to speak about, she gets a little bit of a panic, like, oh my God, because that is very real within our DNA, that fear of being burned at the stake, that fear of being drowned, as you know. But we're on this platform now in 2023 where, yeah, we get our trolls, we get the trolls, but no one's burning us at a stake, and we know that that's not going to happen. And so we are the hope and the dreams and the fulfillment of our ancestors. You know, we are able now, and when you were talking about that with the Dogon people, about how they were holding it, this information, and it's almost like they hid it but nourished it at the same time, right? It wasn't just put away in the attic somewhere to collect dust. They were nourishing it and working it to eventually one day, when the pun intended or no pun intended, when the stars aligned, it would be able to then. And with the French explorer that went down there, I mean, the fact that they welcomed him with open arms. They welcomed him with open arms to come into their tribe and live amongst their people. He lived there for a few decades with the Dogon. Could you imagine being the only white man? You would stick out like a sore thumb. It's like, my boyfriend has red hair, so when he's in India, he sticks out like a sore thumb, you know. But they welcomed him because it was almost like they knew. You know, they knew. You know, they knew. They probably.
Well, I mean, come on. I mean, when you are visited with beings that have great technology and possibly can foresee the future, you know, these are things that were instilled in us from the beginning of humanity. This was cultivated in our DNA. All of us have the ability to be psychic. All of us have the ability to be intuitive. All of us have the ability to have these premonitions. And so, you know, it's just a matter of how we utilize and interpret the abilities that we have. I mean, heck, right now, we watching one of my favorite shows, Heroes, you know, which was back in the early 2000s, where everyone had a different ability, everyone could do this, everyone could do that. But there was two people that could take the abilities of other people and incorporate it into their own being. And so, I mean, if it wasn't if it wasn't a desire to be superhuman or to have these supernatural abilities, or if they didn't exist already, why would we even care to talk about it in such a way? I mean, it's just like me, and I said this, you know, time and again. You know, I am God. You know, I am God in this vessel. I am not the true form or the full embodiment. But God energy or Christ energy or Yeshua or Lemurian energy or Syrian, Pleiadian, Arcturian, whatever energy, it's all exists here. It's just in the way and fashion you choose to access it. And that is totally upon you and what you believe and how you have your belief system in place. And it is that belief system that can, you know, create fear or love or judgment or happiness or joy, whatever it is that you create. It starts with either the lowest frequency, which is fear, or the highest frequency, which is love. Everything else is in between. Is just a gradient of those two. So it's how we choose to express that in this moment and how we nurture it when we do have these astral projections or astral visitations or whatever your experience meets and greets for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree with that. You know, I so agree that we are not nearly as dumb as what we're being told we are. You know, I think that has most certainly been part of our programming over time, just through media, education, TV, whatever it is, fashion, right? Buying unnecessary stuff. We've really gotten out of the things that are important in our lives. And that is why, if we just go back to this pandemic that happened a few years ago, and apparently there's another one planned. Sorry. It's woken a lot of people up to getting back to that connection, I believe, because we were living a very narcissistic life. Think about that. Fast foods, fast everything, living in 100-meter high buildings, hardly ever touching the earth with your feet, right? Everything, smartphones, smart this, smart that, smart this, disconnecting us from the things that are real. So I think the most important thing for us to start going back to our ancient traditions is to really start reconnecting with the things that matter. And if that means with your family, with your child, with your estranged father or mother or sister or brother or child or whatever that is, I think that is an important step to take. It's that reconnection, the rooting in. So the tree, I love the fact I always use the tree as the analogy for us. We're exactly the same as a tree. It's no accident they call it the tree of life, right? We all are our own tree of life, really. And as long as we're rooted into soil that is strong and rich and full of and properly tended, we're going to grow, blossom and bloom, right? And that in itself is that lovely experiential journey where when we are connected to our cultures, when we are connected to the spaces and places that we feel most comfortable in, that's where we're going to flourish. Can't be take that rose and put it into the desert and think it's going to turn into a cactus or something, because it's not. It's that, a rose with cactus leaves or something. It's not going to happen, right? But I think that's what we need to just go back to. And I love that all these ancient tribes are resurfacing. And it's not, if I look just back at my friend Yana Smith, who I do interviews with, she lives in Namibia and she is doing a PhD, never been done before, on the human-wildlife conflict, right? And she's spending so much time with African tribes. She's just been with the Ovareru now. She spent so much time with the Ovareru. And they are one of the first nation tribes as well, the first people. And they've been shoved completely to the side of Namibia. The driest, they're not allowed to hunt for themselves anymore. They are like prisoners in their environment. That's how a lot of the tribes are being disempowered as well, because their heritage has been taken away. And you can't allow that. And it's all been taken away by the government. The government now controls all of that stuff. So, and, now she's working with the Damara. And then, of course, we still have the Khoisan and the Bushmen in Namibia and South Africa as well. And, of course, I know in America and all over, there's a lot of also the ancient tribes that are making their faces seen again. And I think that is really, really important.
Well, a lot of people, especially here in America and in Canada, I mean, we know the Americans pushed the Native Americans off in a way, but the brutality of what the Canadians did, wow, they went like with their schools and there's so many. And I think now people are starting to go, well, wait a minute. We need to pull back a little bit and see what they have to offer. I know from my studies into Native Americans, most of the Native Americans where I live were actually very welcoming of the immigration of Europeans, and the Europeans were very they were there to work with them, and they wanted to buy land and do and so we have to also remember that too, you guys. It's literally, I think anything this last however many years has taught us is that it's never been about us against us. Never. It's always been us versus them, the controllers, the ones that are trying to manipulate. Because if you look through history and you think about even most people today, I've had the privilege of being able to travel all over the world, and I've met so many people that are also traveling, and most people are very respectful. of other people's culture, and most people are very respectful and wanting to like learn and be respectful and appreciate other cultures and participate in other cultures. And so you have to think that over the course of history, this was probably true for most of our ancestors as well. It's just been these few groups of people that were just diabolical. And then of course, I think Hillis, we've talked about this, in my opinion, the thing that really strengthens us as earthlings, as people of this planet, is our differences. But that's what they use to try to divide us. But that's the one thing that gives us the most strength, is the fact that
the unification. Because at the end of the day, how different are we? You know,
really not, right?
I've been a healer for 22 odd years now. Okay. And I've traveled to different parts of the world and dealt with different people in different cultures and animals and children and you name it, right? And there's one thing that's common in all of us. We respond well to love, kindness, affection. We respond in a painful way to pain, rejection, abandonment. We all want the same thing. We all respond well to a roof over our head, food in our belly, water to drink. At the end of the day, that's who we are. And it doesn't matter. And, you know, we always talk about the First Nations tribe as being African or tribes of color. But let's never forget the Celts, the Norse, the Vikings. These are first tribes too. Hey, I went and I did one of my nephews, in fact, did a ancestral DNA thing. I've got a lot of Viking blood in me, you know, which makes so much sense. It makes so much sense, right? And every culture has its beauty. Every culture all comes back to the same thing, I do believe. You know, the more we study the ancient cultures, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I always honor the way the Khoisan hunt. I mean, if they want to the guy wants to take his son out for a hunt the next day, the night or day or week before, whatever, they will do this incredible ceremony where they call in the spirit of the animal that is chosen to give its life. And once they've connected with the animal, only then do they go on the hunt, because they then understand the animal has agreed to give its life.
Yeah.
So I think I'm hanging here. Looks like I'm hanging. But, you know, so stuff like that, to me, when we do things with respect, everything needs to be done with respect, and respect for each other, respect for other sentient beings, respect for the fact that an insect, I mean, the tiniest little spider you can find that's just hatched, runs for its life when it feels it's in danger. Everything wants to live. It comes here because it wants life. So I'm, you know, I know I'm not always popular with these topics, but I don't really mind. But I'm saying that everything, if it's here, chooses to live. I'm not sure that we have the right to take the life of another being randomly or at will. And if we do, there's repercussions, karma. We understand that. So I think if we all understood that, life would be a lot more easy. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I love that you said that. It's all that we ever want. And you know, when we allow ourselves to really understand the full spectrum of who we are, the embodiment of what we are, you know, because we have been on this journey for thousands and years, just trying to understand who we are, you know, because where we live and who our ancestors are. And that hasn't brought us any closer to truly understanding who we are. It's all about how do we love for ourselves? How do we nurture and care for ourselves? That speaks more to the human psyche than anything. And you know,
Absolutely.
and on this journey, one thing that I understood and even understanding better with greater clarity is, you know, we all have our ancestors. We all go and want to know who our grandparents, our great grandparents, our great great uncles and mothers, all of this. We want to know all of this. And a few years ago, it kind of dawned on me, and it said, none of that matters. Knowing your ancestors, it doesn't matter. It's not going to help you know who you are. And people can say whatever they want for me saying that, but it's true. Knowing who your parents are, knowing where they came from, knowing your grandparents, your cousins, aunts, uncles, nephews, nieces, none of that matters, because what matters is your soul. And what's most important is understanding where your soul comes from, understanding that soul lineage, who you've been and how you've acted in multiple lives, which is why, past life regressions or QHHT is somewhat important. And that's why a lot of people I feel gravitating to it, because they want to know who they are. And heck, the lives I've seen, I can write a couple of books about, but it's just really understanding who you are then, and how you have uh, accelerated, or how you have evolved or transformed, and what lessons have you received from that life into this one? How have you incorporating this new wisdom and information? And so that's all that matters. And what comes of that is ultimately love. Love of self, love for your environment, love for those around you, love for the animals, plants, teachers, and everything in your surrounding is a teacher, no matter how small. I mean, it could be the dragonfly, or the breeze in the air, or just the plants that you have in your room. Everything is a teacher. You allow it to be. And so everyone learn to
Absolutely.
love.
It's so funny.
I love what you.
Go ahead, Chanti. Sorry.
No, okay, sorry. I just wanted to say I really love what everything you've said there is something I appreciate as well. And you talk about your ancestors and stuff, and I agree with you. I agree, because as a healer for 20 years, and I'll tell you why I drew that conclusion, because I saw how much pain was being passed down through ancestors, and not just pain on an emotional level, but physical sicknesses as well, right? My mother's got breast cancer, and 3 of her sisters, and 2 of my cousins. So I'm bound to have it when I'm 36. So now I've got to go and cut off my boobs just in case I get it. I say absolutely not. I say, and that's when I came up with this, I don't know what you call it, saying with my students and my whatever. Your energetics is your genetics. When you shift your energy, you shift your genetics. So when you shift the way you feel and think about yourself and the power that is you, that understanding you are connected to God. You have God running through your veins, right? Or source, or the divine, whatever you choose to call it. That is what powers you up. And the minute we get that, everything shifts. And then we realize our family has been the biggest mirror for us. They come down as our soulmates and so close to us, they irritate the living crap out of us most of the time. But that's because we are denying those aspects of ourselves. So use your family as a mirror. Use your family to elevate you out of the stuff that they irk you on or hold you back on, or whatever it might be. That's your kryptonite. Your family is actually your kryptonite, if you know how to use your kryptonite, right? So it really is about understanding that they are our beautiful soulmates that have come to show us our shit in no uncertain terms. And when we get the gift they're giving us, because they love us so much, they're showing us what holds us back, then we will transcend. And then we see them in a very different light. Well, that's when we resurrect the consciousness, right? Because it's our consciousness that needs to resurrect from suffering. Hey, I'm the black sheep of my family. I refused to be that a long time ago. I'm the sparkly one. They're the dull ones. I decided that, and they all know it. So, you know, that's what I'm saying. So when we choose to resurrect our consciousness, our own consciousness around that, we start acting in accordance with that. And it's not an ego thing. It's a very humbling, beautiful, warm, satisfying feeling. You don't need to be in your ego. And I'm not saying I don't ever get into my ego. Please, I'm not saying that. I know when I'm in my ego, and I know I get there. But I also know when I'm not in my ego. And I know when I'm in that beautiful feeling where I'm not in conflict with myself or my creator or those around me. Then I know I'm in a good place. But when I'm in conflict with them, then I know that's my ego. Right. So it really is about being able to gauge your own inner discernment for where you're at in life. And the one person you cannot lie to is yourself. You can try, but you're going to resist that. And if you're lying to yourself, you're going to keep punching yourself and getting yourself into challenging situations, because that's what we do, right? Until we're not. And that's really what it is. And then we open ourselves up to all our First Nations information, all the love, all the suddenly the understanding that, oh my goodness, this is what it's been about. And that is what elevates us.
It's that beautiful Hanuman quote from the Ramayana where Hanuman says, when I don't know who I am, I serve you. When I know who I am you. So my favorite quotes, and you're right, guys. I think as you're saying that, Chanti, I was thinking about back to what Hillis was saying about the humility of the Dogon people, and within humility, there is that sense of love, right? Whenever someone has humility, they're invested in other people's opinions, other people's ideas of other people's greatness. Not meaning that they don't know they themselves are also great, but they're not so worried about competing with the greatness of others and seeing us all as one collective whole. And so it's that when I don't know who I am, I serve you. When I know who I am you. And we're coming up at about an hour, guys, but I want to do this again. This has been so amazing. I knew it. If I got Hillis and Chanti together, that it would be like a power couple on YouTube. So would you guys be down to doing this again?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm gonna put a call out to our audience.
Oh yeah, definitely. I would love.
Because I know
has been so fun.
We have so many like other awesome weirdos that watch this channel, liberated ones who watch this channel. And so because this started, all these 3 parts of this conversation literally started from one comment that I got question on one of my videos. And so it's opened up this whole beautiful discussion. And so we really are all walking each other home. And so I'm going to put a call out to all of our friends that are watching right now. Is there a topic or a historical event, like the Dogon people or the Sumerians, that you want me and Hillis and Chanti to kind of look into and discuss? I know Hillis can channel. Shanti's also a great channeler. If there's anything you guys, because I want to hear from you guys, because I'm going to reiterate this again. This is why I opened up my YouTube channel. I love weird topics. I love studying stuff. I love learning, and spirituality is my favorite. Mysticism, magic. This is all my favorite stuff to talk about and learn about. And I opened up my YouTube channel so that I could have a community with other people who had other incredible ideas. And I would have never gone down this road if it wasn't for that one comment that somebody left. So for that person, again, thank you, because you helped us look at, got us together to talk about this and to understand a deeper level of our own humanity. And so let us know, guys, is there another group that you want us to look into and talk about? And just let us know. Put it in the comment section below, and I will send it over to Hillis and Sean. We can plan for another roundtable and go deep with this. Any parting words from you guys? Hillis, is there any parting words you want to tell? Is there anything our galactic people want to tell our friends watching right now? Or spirit, anything spirit wants us to know?
For you to sit in your humility. And as you sit in this space, you allow yourself to be the master of who you are. And with the space of mastery, you simply become you. Whatever that means for you, and whatever moment it means, let it just be that.
Beautiful. Chanti, I love that your cat's just been chilling the whole time.
And she doesn't often come. That's why she's showing me her bum. She doesn't often come and sit, but lately she's been a little bit less camera shy.
A little more sassy. I'm
She
like,
likes to be seen, but not too much.
she's the real star of the show. I just love it. I love
Yeah.
it. So Chanti, what's your parting words for our friends right now?
I think, Hillis, you said it absolutely perfectly. I can't come up with anything other than that. Be humble, sit in your humility, and that's where you find your master. And your master is you, your self-mastery. Absolutely. And it's a beautiful time that you have with God, source, the divine, whatever you choose to call that connection. I think it's just the time is here for that, you know. And in all the workshops and things I'm doing right now, and I've got to say, I started 2 months back or so, 2.5 months back, with a group of women. And I was starting with you started on 8 weeks. After the 8 weeks, I said, listen, I've got another 6 weeks of this. Come and help me, literally, because it's an incredible small group of women. And we are literally, it's the feather touch work we're doing. Understanding right now we cannot force things anymore. We've, as humanity, we've got this go, go, go. Let's motivate ourselves. You go and see this awesome motivational speaker, and nothing against motivational speakers, please. And for 3 days, you amp to the hilt. And then after that, you kind of and feeling all disappointed or whatever. It really is a time of being quiet, and not all the time, of course, but spending time being quiet, being still, really getting in touch with God, the God voice or your intuition within you, because that's going to give you the discernment you need at this time to be able to become that vessel that reinvents itself so that you can be a harbinger for this energy coming in. We cannot deny, guys, all we have to do is look around us. There is so much crazy chaos going on, and we know the dark energies are very, very active right now because they're coming to the end of their era, so to speak, of sucking life out of, call it humans or the planet or whatever. And the more their resources go into reserve, so to speak, the more desperate they're becoming. So the more fear is being created, the more all sorts of upside down. Look at all these crazy things happening in the world right now. Fear is being created in horrendous ways. So the more fear is being created, obviously, the more people are giving that energy for them to feed off. So we really have to be in our discernment, in our life truth, and that's going to be the thing that gets us through. I always ask myself, what, and really, what would Jesus do now? It's a question I ask myself at least 20 times a day, and it's really just understanding. It's more from the aspect of wisdom. What would wisdom do now? Because I see Jesus as one of the wisest teachers. As a healer, I resonate with Jesus' teachings hugely. So in that way, what would Jesus do now? And I'm not talking about punting a Bible verse at someone. I'm talking about taking an action that makes a difference.
I second all of that. I think that, sometimes we're so busy fighting for love that we forget to take a moment to pause in that humility and realize love is your birthright. It's all around you and it's what you are. Absolutely. And so take that moment to take a deep breath and know that you are a eternal soul that comes from that place of love, and it's all around you. And as you were talking, Hillis, earlier about, you know, getting the information, I just felt that all of these beings of our heritage that we can't see right now, maybe, or we can't, that they are all around us, and they're cheering us on, and they're rooting for us, just like a parent cheers on a child. And yeah, I absolutely, guys. So this has been a very, I knew it. I'm gonna pat myself on the back. I knew it. I knew getting Chanti and Hillis together would be amazing. So it would be magic.
That was really cool. Thank you, Hillis. It was really cool.
Thank you,
Really great
Chanti.
to meet you.
Likewise,
Where do you
likewise.
live? Where do you live?
I live in Florida.
I was hoping that you might be a little bit closer here so we could hang out sometime.
You never know. Heck, I mean, how things go.
I
Exactly.
believe that our continents are actually close together. They're closer together than we think they are. And I'm gonna be real pissed, though. I'm gonna be real upset.
I could probably paddle ski to you. I'd be really annoyed if I could paddle ski to you, right?
I just hop on a canoe and just get to Chanti's house and be like, damn, I spent so much money on plane tickets. I'm like, what sham is this? So put some floaties on it.
So annoying.
Dog paddle over to South Africa. So anyway, guys, we laugh, but one day soon, I know I was listening to some stuff yesterday. It's about to get real interesting for our world again, but you know what? That's what makes it fun. So here we go, guys. We're just ending. I loved how you said that, Hillis. We're ending the old, and Chanti just we're ending the old, and with that ending, we're starting anew again. With the good old, with the ancient wisdom of old, not the darkness. So you guys, anyway, guys, of course, always leave us your thoughts and your opinions down in the comment section below. Let us know if there's any other topics you want us to explore for you, with you. Please be respectful in the comment section below. Obviously, all the trolls, you can't burn us at the stake. So
bless them, trolls.
As we say down here in the South, savage Southern women, bless your heart, honey, which just means you're a dumbass. So bless your heart. Anyway, you guys, we love you, and we will talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.
Cheers, guys. Thank you so much.